Guilty verdicts in the trial of a police officer accused of raping his colleague were met with tears and anger today. The 29-year-old man has been on trial in the Auckland District Court for the past 2 weeks after pleading not guilty to indecent assault and sexual violation. He stood accused of groping a female officer during a boozy night with colleagues and later raping her as she slept in a Kerikeri motel last February. Today, after 4 hours of deliberations, the jury returned with unanimous guilty verdicts. Our court reporter Anneke Smith was there and she joins me now. Anneke, what happened?
Well, the verdicts this afternoon were met with sort of a stunned silence from those in the room, and things quickly changed into emotions as the defendant's family began to cry in the public gallery. They've sat through much of the trial over the past 2.5 weeks. The defendant himself in the dock was quite shocked. He appeared quite shocked. He sort of put his hand up to his face and then just stared at his family. Things changed when the jury was dismissed. So the man was taken back into the cells. The jury was thanked and dismissed. When the man was brought back in for the sentencing date to be set, he grew quite upset and angry. He swore and shouted in the dock, saying that the verdict, the trial, wasn't fair and crying. His family tried to console him from the public gallery, saying things would be fine and that the truth would eventually come out, but they couldn't get him to face the judge as Judge Evangelos Thomas set that sentencing date for April.
So what is the context to this verdict? What do we know about what happened?
Yeah, so over the past few weeks, we've heard that there was a group of police officers sent to Northland to work during Waitangi commemorations. They were all put up in a Kerikeri motel for a few days. There was a boozy night. They were off duty, but they were drinking heavily. During that night, this man groped this female officer in an attempt to come onto her. She told the jury she denied him, said she wasn't interested and thought, that was that. She didn't make a fuss about it or anything. Then later on, CCTV footage shows the man going into the woman's room, and it's in this room that the woman said that she was raped. She woke up in pain to being raped, and the jury's verdict confirms that. So the man has been found guilty of indecent assault and sexual violation. Through the course of the trial, we sort of got a glimpse at this sort of behind the scenes of police conduct. Effectively, they were off duty, but they were drinking heavily. In one instance, they were sculling beer out of a hollowed out police baton. In another, they were playing a stripping game. And in 2 separate instances, a sergeant, which was effectively their boss, exposed himself twice to the group who were drinking.
So downtrout, took his pants down.
Completely exposed himself. There were women in the group. The women were a minority, but there were definitely women in the group. So that was sort of what we heard throughout the trial.
So, given that, what has been the police response and the history, and given the police history around sexual assault and rape?
So, yeah, many would know about the Louise Nicholas case. This comes to mind. There was a commission of inquiry and then effectively set into train a 10-year review. We went to police who said that this behaviour that came to light in this Kerikeri incident was completely unacceptable. A few moments ago, I asked Superintendent Naila Hassan how the public could trust the police when this was happening behind the scenes.
Look, that's a valuable question, and what I can say is that it's incredibly concerning for police that any officer thought that the behaviour was acceptable. Although off duty, acting in a manner in which they did outside of work is not acceptable. I can assure the community that we have carried out a thorough internal investigation into the behaviour and Kerikeri, and those involved are being held to account.
The police said that they carried out an employment investigation. It's separate to a criminal investigation into the man's conduct, which found that 4 staff who were at that motel were identified as having breached the police's code of conduct. Now, 3 of them, we're told, were disciplined, but remain on active duty, and 1 no longer works in the force. We'll have more on this case when the man is sentenced in April.
Thanks, Anneke. That's Anneke Smith, our court reporter, who was there for the verdict, a 29-year-old police officer who was found guilty of raping a colleague.